Hey, what's going on, guys? 118 Set Shadow here. So, this past weekend, well, it was just today, I think, right? We had the Toronto Shadowverse Regionals for World Championship qualifiers, and the results have been coming out with the top four being exclusively Dragoncraft and Havencraft, and the winning deck overall was Dragoncraft. Among the top eight, we managed to get a Dirt Runecraft build as well as Aggro Abyss as well. So among the top eight, four of the six crafts that are available managed to make top eight. The only ones that didn't make top eight are Forestcraft and Swordcraft. Mind you, this is the first regional that we've had for the World Championship qualifier this year, so we'll see more results pour in over time. But ultimately, the first one still falls under what most players will kind of get at, where in terms of the meta, Dragoncraft is still the deck to beat, and when it comes to other decks, there are certain ones that are seen as capable, like Abyss and Haven, I think. No, Abyss and Rune. It's honestly hard to say. Abyss for sure, because it does have a good bit of popularity. Swordcraft is supposedly supposed to be incredibly popular as well, and did have a fair following at the regional, but it just did not get a single top 8 slot. The decks that had the least showing in Toronto were Forestcraft, Havencraft, and I think it was actually Abyss. But Abyss is still quite a powerful deck, capable of making it. And despite the fact that there were only 3 Havencraft decks, from what I understand, 2 of them made top 4 overall. But just to go over some of the key cards that were illustrated for the decks, you have Dark Dragoon Forte for Dragoncraft, which currently, price-wise, it's still looking about the same. The legendary of the base form is still just around $20. The super legendary has been dropping further. Now we have a listing as low as 35 over here. And it's lightly played too. Never mind, there are 2 lightly playeds for 35, and then it gets up to 40, 41. So actually it is more of a $40 card than 35. But the evolved version is cheap. Pretty cheap. $2 right now when it comes to the base of it, and then if you want the super legendary of the Evo, it's basically a $5, $6 card. That's not bad at all. And then when it comes to the ultimate rare though, which is of the evolved version, that one on the other hand is still really expensive. 5 listings left, $130 to start off with, and when you take a look at all the other variants, there are a lot of listings for all of them except for the super legendary. And then when it comes to Havencraft, Holy Sentinel is the card that's used as the cover to indicate when a Havencraft player seems to win, as opposed to using any of the legendaries like John or Almirage, which I would assume Almirage was played in the top builds. I didn't get to see any of the deck lists, but it's clear that Holy Sentinel was played at the very least, as it's the key card right now and central to the overall deck. But right now, it's a silver, so not too expensive. It's 59 cents base, and then you get to $1 basically. And going into set 2, it's not as likely to see play, so because qualifiers are over for regionals, there isn't much reason for you to pick this up unless there are some last-minute qualifiers that you're trying to go in for. I know there is one that I could try to participate in. I'm not sure if I will, but we'll see. Then you've got Cerberus, which, while Abyss only got top 8, which is still really good, I did talk about how the super legendaries were going way above market value. And right now, when you take a look at them, the Evo super legendary is $34 base right now. And then the super legendary of the regular version is base $80, which I'm pretty sure it hasn't sold that high. Let's take a look. Okay, so it has sold for $65. That's pretty rough. $50, $40. Cerberus is looking to become the top super legendary in the set now. It's pretty insane. But I should note that when it comes to the legendary rare of the base version, because of how expensive the super legendaries become, I think it's starting to push the price of the base legendary as well. Because this card's market price was more around 15 and it was selling for 12 to 13 for a little while, but now the base listing is 16. If we take a look at sales, you can see it's dropped off pretty heavily from 25-ish, but it's getting back up there and has sold a number of copies close at 16 in the last day, basically. So be careful. Cerberus is still a good card to consider for Abysscraft going forward, so keep that in mind. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is around leader cards that come out of Set 1. Now, leader cards are, if they're coming out of Set 1, you can only get 2 of them per case. And do remember that they are high rarities of the same cards that you can get from the starter decks. There are a few that are unit specific, which you can't get from the starter decks, and therefore those tend to be more expensive because they're the only possible copies to get. But when it comes to the character leader cards that are printed in this set, it's a different story. But all the character leader cards have been seeing drops in value from Set 1. Starting with Orisa, right now we've got a base listing of $80. They have been selling for $90, but there are a few copies for $80, 4 altogether before it gets back up to $90. And it's been pretty stable at this point. But given that we're seeing more copies come for lower, because the last one didn't sold about a week ago, so it's getting harder to sell some of these. The next one, Erica, is also significantly down, where this one was one of the more expensive ones to pick up at the start. It used to be closer to a $120 card. Lately, it's been selling for $75 to $85, and near mint copies start off at $76 to $80, so that's another one dropping off. Isabel, also basically the same, but it is one of the more expensive ones to pick up regardless. It started around 150, almost got to 200, but it still sells for about 130-ish. And we do have listings as low as 125 right now. Rune is a popular deck overall, so... And I mean, it's Isabel too. I'm not sure much else I can say about that. Despite the fact that Dragoncraft is still the deck to beat, Rowan is one of the cheaper ones to pick up. It's a $45 card right now with... yeah, it's basically a $45 card, so very easy to pick up at this point. Urias, which is one of the 2 cards you can pick up for Abysscraft, is also dropping off. 66 and 75 were the latest sells, and it's dropped off from the $90 mark. It has a number of listings under $70 right now. Luna is also dropping off, which in Japan, this card was the leader to pull out of your packs, as initially this card was selling for close to $550 to $600 over in Japan. Over here, it never saw that. It got close to 200, probably sold a few times there, but now it's all the way down to 100, 110 for a good amount of its low listings. And then finally you've got Eris, who is right now the cheapest one to pick up, even cheaper than Rowan. She has a $40 listing, 2 $40 listings, and then goes to 46 to 50. So a little bit cheaper than Rowan is right now, and a Havencraft one, but yeah, that's just how it is when it comes to these high rarity versions of the ones you get from the starter decks. They're not too expensive in a fair amount of their cases. And even for big ones like Erica, they've dropped off hard. Now the only ones that are holding value are Isabel and Luna, basically. Then when you take a look at some of the exclusive leader cards, you've had the 2 big ones, starting with Zernitra, which has fallen off to become more close to 150. 2 listings overall, 150 and 155. and then you get back to 175 there, but it's not selling as hot. And then you got Aurelia Blooming Blade, which is also dropping off. Overall, we've got 126 to 142 in terms of sales, and the listings go from 140 to 142 basically. So it's just sitting at that point right now. Moving on from leader cards into promos, Angelic Snipe finally has a few listings available for its promo version that you get from the shop qualifiers. They have been selling for $15, and there are two listings right now, one at $15 and one at $20. And there were a few that sold for $20 earlier on, but they just dropped off a whole lot faster. But considering that the qualifiers are over, we won't be seeing as many of these, although I know a few stores did not get these in, including my qualifier. They didn't get these in for their qualifiers, so expect more of them to eventually come into the market once those start to come in. And because regionals just started, keep in mind that the promo version of Demonic Strike that you get for entering regionals doesn't have any listings at this point. The listing is available on TCG Player, but expect to see at least a few pop up now that Toronto has ended. They'll probably be pretty expensive to start, but because regionals is limited to only a few players, it'll be justified in holding at least somewhat of a decent price. Probably like $25 to $30, I don't know. Quick Blader, this is one of the cards you got from the showdown for entering it, but the promo of this has dropped off pretty hard. It used to be closer to 15, and now you can pick them up for 4 pretty readily. And then to wrap it up for today is the promo of Shapeshifting Mage, where if you get top 8 at the Shadowverse Showdown, then you got this card. But this one also dropped off from 25 all the way to 11. And it has a good amount of quantities at $11 to $12 at this point. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys later.